Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll be doing a full review of the Centurion Action X, a currently 7.3 PR rank 4 premium tank in the British Ground Forces tech tree, and one that currently costs 6,090 GE. In this review, I'll be going over everything that you need to know about it, including its stats, how it plays, its strengths and weaknesses. I'll give some scores for how it performs in battle, and then I'll give my final recommendation on if I feel that this vehicle is worth purchasing or not. As always, please subscribe if you're an action hero, or simply if you like my videos, but either way, let's get into the video. Now first, I'll place its stats here on the side of the screen. Important stats to know are its turret armor, reload speed, and of course, armor penetration. Now with that brief intro aside, let's get into how it plays. Put simply, the Centurion Action X plays like any other Centurion from around this BR. In short, it is essentially a heavy medium tank due to its mediocre mobility, good frontal armor, and powerful cannon. Due to this combination of traits, it functions very well as a sniper, as its APDS will be able to penetrate upwards of 200mm of armor at several kilometers and even at a substantial impact angle. This power will allow you to pierce nearly all enemy tanks, even in the upper Glacis, barring an oddly angled hit or extreme ranges. Additionally, its APDS shell, the Shot Mark III, has an excellent muzzle velocity of over 1400 meters per second, which is fantastic at this BR. The very powerful 84mm 20-pounder cannon, when combined with the Action X's stabilizer and very good reload speed, creates a fearsome tank that can shoot, scoot, and fire accurately whilst changing positions. The Action X can also function well enough in a brawling role, as that stabilizer will allow you to move through cities and destroy enemies that are close by while on the move before they can even react to you. This, when coupled with the fact that you can have as low as a 6.3 second reload with a fully aced crew, means that you can actually do quite a bit of work in close quarter scenarios. Even though the Action X is one of the slower medium tanks in game, it has just enough mobility where this will work, if that's what you're into. I've actually had great success when doing exactly this in city maps, whereas I personally cannot stand sitting back and sniping, at least for the most part, even though that is what the Action X is best at. In short, because of the excellent cannon, good frontal armor, especially in the turret, and poor mobility of this vehicle, you should try to outrange enemies as a sniper first and foremost, though the stabilizer will also give you an immense advantage when moving through cramped urban areas. Additionally, this has an awesome backfiring engine so that you know that you're tanking around in a British vehicle. Now with that said, let's get into its strengths and weaknesses, and first, for its strengths. It has a very powerful 84mm cannon with great armor pen, accuracy, and a great reload speed. Second, the Action X has 2 smoke grenade charges of 6 grenades each, which is excellent, especially at this BR. For its third strength, it has a cannon stabilizer, which, like the smoke grenades, is not very common at this BR. Fourth, it has very good turret armor, especially in the front. The Action X also has a unique turret profile and does not have a mantlet like most tanks have, and will thus have a turret face that will be easier to ricochet off of, and it is typically more difficult to destroy the cannon breach on the Action X than it would be with other vehicles, at least should a shell not ricochet. For its fifth strength, it also has smoked shells, in addition to the smoke grenades. This will come in handy. For its sixth strength, it has a 12 shell ready rack that is 50% larger than what you see on the similar BR Centurion Mark 5-1. And finally, the Action X has very good RP and SL boosters, which will make grinding very easy. Even when recording this video, I've made hundreds of thousands of silver lions with no difficulty at all. And now, of course, for its weaknesses. First and foremost, it lacks a top-mounted MG, which will make it difficult to defend yourself against aircraft and lightly armored vehicles. Secondly, the turret-mounted LMG is both weak and very odd to aim. It bounces around a ton and takes a while to become stable once you stop moving your cannon. Third, while the 84mm cannon is powerful, it is smaller than most contemporary cannons and, as such, has a bit less post-pen damage than other vehicles. You need to be a bit more precise when hitting critical areas of enemy tanks with it, such as ammo racks, gunners, and so forth. Otherwise, your shell might just go straight through an enemy tank without doing any damage. Fourth, it is a fairly slow vehicle overall with a 35km/h top speed and a mediocre power to weight ratio. For its fifth weakness, it lacks heat FS, which would be great at longer ranges versus vehicles with difficult to pen holes. For its sixth weakness, it has mediocre upper Glacis armor as well as poor armor pretty much everywhere else on the hull of this vehicle. And finally, even though this isn't so much of a weakness at this BR, it does not have night vision. Now, with all the strengths and weaknesses out of the way, let's get into how I score this vehicle. First, for armament, I give the Action X an 8 out of 10. The 83.4mm 20-pounder cannon on the Action X is extremely punchy when equipped with its Shot Mark III APDS shell, with nearly 300mm of armor pen in ideal circumstances. At 7.3 BR, this is phenomenal, especially considering that it retains 200mm of armor pen at a distance of 2 kilometers and at a 30-degree angle. Mix this with its very good reload rate, great accuracy, and its stabilizer, and you have a great armament at 7.3 BR. Unfortunately, it lacks the heat FS that would do very well versus a lot of the oddly shaped and heavily armored hulls of this BR, and it is a fairly small shell, especially considering that it is already a sub-caliber shell in an 83.4mm cannon. It oftentimes will hit a hull and punch through with doing little to no damage, all while letting enemies know exactly where you are. You simply need to know your weak spots when shooting this cannon. Otherwise, it's a great cannon that should be able to go through essentially every tank that it faces with ease, even in a full up tier. On a side note, I deducted about half a point from this score for not having any sort of MG on top, along with the fact that the turret mounted MG is among the worst in game with how it's utilized. Now for its mobility, I give the Centurion Action X a 4 out of 10. Probably the first thing that you'll notice when using the Action X is its mobility. It stands out as being poor, as this vehicle not only has a lackluster power to weight ratio of just 12.8 horsepower per ton, but also has poor maneuverability as well, losing tremendous amounts of speed going uphill and in simple turning maneuvers. While it is by no means a fast vehicle, as it feels like a heavy tank insofar as mobility is concerned, it can still move around at around 25 kilometers per hour fairly easily and has enough power to accelerate to that level with relative ease. The Action X, or for that matter any Centurion, is by no means a Leopard, a T-54, or an M48, but it will still be able to get you to where you need, even if just barely. And now for its survivability rating. I give the Centurion Action X a 6 out of 10. Survivability on this vehicle is fairly interesting, as it has a unique turret design that lacks a mantlet, taking away many of the issues that other tanks have, such as a poorly armored mantlet or an easily destroyed cannon breach. This, however, does not mean that your breach won't be destroyed, but it does happen noticeably less on this vehicle than it does with others. Regardless, the Action X features an average-sized crew of 4 men and great turret armor, especially on the front. Frontal hull armor is also okay, but is truly only effective at a range or versus auto cannons, as it is only 76mm at max, albeit with a good armor slope. Ultimately, the turret armor, when combined with the smoke grenades and somewhat decent hull armor, allow for the Action X to survive slightly more than what other tanks at this BR might survive, but not necessarily much more. Now overall, I give the Action X a 6.5 out of 10, and I give it that score because it has such a great cannon that, when combined with its decent survivability, allows the Action X to be one of the better snipers in War Thunder, especially at this BR. It is by no means a perfect vehicle, but it plays fairly interestingly and is powerful enough to destroy almost any vehicle that it might come across, even in an up tier. And now for my final recommendation and my take on the Centurion Action X. Now while I would love to say that the Centurion Action X, with its cool name and somewhat unique turret, though this same design is seen on, for example, the FB4202, is an exceptional Centurion, I unfortunately cannot say that. While it is a bit different compared to other Centurions, it is essentially a gift wrap Centurion Mark III, or in real life it was really a Centurion Mark VII with a new turret, but it's closest in game to the Mark III. It is perfectly good and in many ways has very good defensive characteristics, while also remaining an excellent offensive threat, but it is at its heart essentially a Mark III with arguably better turret armor, the same cannon and ammo, and is about a ton lighter. The Action X is also in a weird spot insofar as premiums are concerned, because it has to face off against the AVRE, the now marketplace limited Centurion Mark V/1, occasionally the Black Prince when that's on sale, and if you want to really increase the price, against the Challenger DS and Ruicat 105 as well. All of these vehicles are excellent in their own ways, and each of them are worthy competitors against the Action X. The thing is though that the Action X is typically the least expensive among all of them, costing about $30 USD in Golden Eagles when not on sale, and occasionally as low as or lower than $15 USD, whereas the cheapest competitor will typically be the Centurion AVRE, which sits at $40 USD, though comes of course with premium time and Golden Eagles, with the Centurion Mark V/1 now costing costing upwards of $50 on the marketplace for just the tank itself, making it a decidedly worse deal. With this said, for a bare bones tank that is essentially a returreted Centurion Mark 7, or in this case a Mark 3, the $30 cost arguably makes the Centurion Action X the best deal of all of the rank 4 tanks and above, as it is a decently good performer in all aspects sans mobility, and will typically be a very easy to use vehicle that just about anyone can step into and grind through the tech tree with ease. The only downside is that this is a rank 4 vehicle, whereas the Centurion AVRE and Mark 5/1 are rank 5, with the Challenger DS and Rurocat 105 both being rank 6, meaning that all of these vehicles will be able to research through more of the British ground tech tree than the Action X will without penalty. Regardless, due to its cost, ease of use, and good placement on the British ground forces tech tree, I still fully recommend the Centurion Action X, even more so than the other options that I mentioned, especially when on a budget, as the AVRE is difficult to use at a range, the Mark 5/1 it costs a bit too much for what you get, and the Rurocat 105 and Challenger DS both cost 2 times what the Action X costs. Unless you're looking for something to grind out the entirety of the British ground tech tree, I'll stick by the Action X and fully recommend it. Plus, I give it my Tankenstein seal of approval, as it is a solid overall performer and of course is a pretty darn good deal. Now that being said, please let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Of course, like, comment, subscribe, you guys know the dealio. I want to know what you guys think about this vehicle, if you have it, if you're looking to maybe purchase it. But either way, again, thanks, and I will see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.